Hey everyone, it's Jake at Jake's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well and welcome to episode 78 of my Metal Vault, where I will be exploring and showing you all my favorite albums within heavy metal to thrash metal, death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, folk metal, you name it, all of that excellent stuff. As well as talking about the albums, I will also be talking about the band, so a brief history and any releases leading up to the album that I have picked. And this one right here definitely is a timeless masterpiece, and I forgot to mention that in my acid bath episode. And even if I forget to mention it in the video, I will be putting it in the description of the video going forward. So even if I've mentioned it in either at the start or in the middle somewhere, or even at the end as normal, or if I forget, it'll be in the description. But either way, it's implied because of how much these albums have standed the test of time, and a lot of the ones I've mentioned have all been my absolute favorites, which includes this one from an excellent Dutch death metal band, and it's Pestilence. And these guys here, I've yet to see live, and there, there's another one on the list of these episodes because I'm looking at my episodes a little bit here, and yeah, I've got quite a lot to do. I've got like 15 written out, and this is right on the top there. And without further ado, let's talk about this band. Let's show the album. This is once again Pestilence, and it's a 1989 album, Consuming Impulse. And whew, very iconic cover right there. Of course, a very iconic logo. Yeah, someone being devoured alive by ants right there. Got the songs on the back. This was released on RC Records, but the one I have was released on Roadrunner, if it will focus. There we go, Roadrunner Records. Of course, it says down there Roadrunner Productions there. So get the booklet out so I can show the artwork, and my camera's not focusing. There we go. There's the CD. Got the Roadrunner label right there. And I always do this because sometimes the light reflects off the case, the artwork. And of course, on the back, we got the guys in the band. Of course, Patrick there is the only original member left within the band. Of course, this one right here, an absolute legend within the scene in his own right, Mr. Martin Van Drunen, who did the vocals and the bass. And once you hear his vocals, you know it's him because he's got such a unique, iconic style that he has. And of course, this was the last album he was on with this band. And what a way to end a tenure with the band with an album such as this. Of course, he went on to play in Asphyx, who he's still currently in now, and one called Hell of Bullets. You know Hell of Bullets, as soon as you heard it, just monstrous death metal. Of course, Patrick here is no longer in the band himself. Was in the band from, well, I'm going to get into that in a bit, but yeah. I know he came back in 2009 and then left in 2014. And of course, Marco right there on the drums. Right there. And of course, it's got all their names right there from left to right. And of course, just to show a little bit of lyrics right here. And what an album this is. Oh yeah, it continues on like that, which is really cool. Like that when that happens. And I'm trying to remember where I got this. It might have been at a record shop. It might have been when, because there's a shop in the galleries now. It used to be Virgin, then it was called Head, and it was under another name as well, which sold CDs, DVDs, and stuff. But I'm pretty sure I might have found that there, or I might have got one when I was in America last time when I was in Florida. I can't bloody remember now. It's been a long time. It was a long time ago. I know that much, but just happy that I got this album. But anyway, let's talk about these guys. Pestilence, and they are from, of course, the Netherlands. Are from a place where I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, but I have been to the Netherlands, and it's just a really cool country. They formed in 1986, split up in 1994, reformed in 2008, split up in 2014, and then reformed 2 years later in 2016. And Patrick, like I said, just to show him off again, right there is the only one still currently in the band. Because, like I said, Van Drunen was in the band from when I get click on him just briefly here. From where is it? Nine, what is it? 1987 to 1990. Because around time after they did this album here, they did a tour with Bolver and Autopsy. I think it was around that tour. It was his last tour with the band, and then went on to join Fix. Yeah, because these first two albums are more is death metal, death thrash. It's death metal, quite thrashy. So hence here where it says death thrash, and then the later ones are more on the technical, progressive side of death metal. So anyway, without further ado, what we after before I get into the demos, Nick Sagis, I want to say his last name is pronounced. I probably just said that wrong. Was the bass player in the band for 2 months, and we didn't record an album with him, but did play live with him. So this was after Van Drunen left. But before Van Drunen left, he was on the two demos that were released in 1987, both of them. So one's called Destiny. So that is 4 tracks, independent release right there. Actually, no, Van Drunen was not on this one. Patrick did vocals on this one, but obviously went on to do vocals for the band after Van Drunen left. So it was Patrick on doing guitars, bass, and the vocals, and then Randy, who was their guitarist before Patrick, who I'm just going to call for now, play guitars, and then Marco on the drums. And I believe the Penance, which is their second demo to come out here, which has Van Drunen on just vocals. He didn't do bass for the demo. Patrick did that. And of course, Randy was still in the band by that time. Another 4-track demo. And both demos were independent releases. And then we got on to Malleus Maleficarum, which is their 1988 debut. And what a debut it is. And quite a few albums came out that same year, one of which being Leprosy by Death. Yep, 10 track album. Of course, Randy was on this one, and then of course he left just before they recorded the album that I'm going to show you. But yeah, Malleus Maleficarum, what an album. I would say that one's more on the thrashier death metal side. This one became a little bit more death metal, but still very thrashy. Of course, Consuming Impvlse, which was, of course, both albums released on RC Records. And I'm very sure Malleus Maleficarum was also released on, on Roadrunner as well, on vinyl and cassette, but on CD only on RC Records. This was released on, of course, because I have the CD version of that, because they did release a vinyl version on Roadrunner Records that same year. Because the first CD would have been released on RC Records, same with the cassette. And looking at the lineup, of course, yeah, Randy was gone by then, and that's when Patrick came in. Of course, the three members who were on the last demo And the first album, of course, on this one, and of course, Patrick was the only new one on in the band at that time. And they all do an excellent job on this album. From just this album from start to finish is insane, and I will be getting that into a bit. Let's talk about who did what. So, artwork is a man named Neil James. He went under a different name. He did artwork for Extinction of Mankind and Haywire, as well as Pestilence. And he was here from here in the UK, not necessarily here in Bristol, but from the UK. But he sadly died in 2022. Harris Johns was what used to be in a band himself called Cran, which was power speed metal. Power and speed metal goes really well together. Did guest appearances on different releases by different bands, ranging from vocals to guitar to a harp. If you hear harp in a metal album, it definitely does work with a lot of them. Yeah, he did artwork for a monomorph, Wrath of the Norseman, which is their video. Of course, Celtic Frost to Megatherin. I think for the reissue, as far as I can see here, Corner, uh, Desecrator, which is not not the band that I'm wearing here, a different one. And who else has he done stuff for? Enthroned, because he did guest vocals on, I think, on one of the albums he mixed, mastered, produced, and engineered. Gravedigger, another band, iconic band. Halloween, Holy Moses, Immolation produced their first album. Well, produced, engineered, and mixed. Creator, Pleasure to Kill. I mean, iconic album right there. Of course, Terrible Certainty as well. Dawn of Possession, the Immolation album he did. And for Holy Moses was Real Chaos. But yeah, there's less is going on for this guy right here. Pestilence, of course. Yeah, Voivod as well. Killing Technology, just one of the albums he did for them. And last but not least, we got Ron, who did the photography for this album in the band picture, and for another band's EP in 1993. So that's who is that's who did artwork, photography, mixed and then engineered and mastered. But let's talk about the album. Let's talk about the songs. And there's 10 songs overall. One is an instrumental. And this album is just intense from start to finish. Starting with Dehydration, which is the first track. Just pretty much just takes off on the get-go. As soon as you start playing this album, that click on that song, or put on your record player, your cassette player, your CD player, that song just kicks right in. With got excellent guitar playing, bass, bass and drumming, and Van vocals just sit. Just as soon as they come out, there they are. They're just right in your face. Same with the next song here, the Process of Suffocation, just carrying on the brutality there. Just balls to the wall. Just guitar works excellent. Bass playing is just excellent as well. Drumming excellent. Everything's just on point. Same with, and then Suspended Animation, still carrying on that brutality right there. Just like I said, it's a death metal album, but it's still it's still quite thrashy in areas, and they haven't got rid of that thrash metal element yet, and it definitely works. They blended it very well, and that goes into the Trauma, which is just again another intense in your face track right there. And then we got Chronic Infection, which Has a good little opening bit to the song. Nice drumming right there, and then more guitar comes in, the bass comes in, Andrew's vocals come in, and that like mid-pace sort of almost fast style of vocals he's doing. And then because that's one of my favorite tracks, because my favorite track of all time from this album, and it's the first song I ever heard by these guys, and that is Out of the Body. I know there was a re-recorded version, and Patrick did a really good job on that. But I'm always going to love the original because I love Van Druenen's vocals on this song just a little bit more. And starts off with guitar, and then the drums come in, and then everything kicks in with his vocal, with Van Druenen's vocals, that like scream growl type of a style. And and man, I mean, I don't know how tall he is. He's probably like 6'6" at least. And man, he just towers over everyone in that band. Because if you find a band picture of him, he's towering over every single one of them. And the guy looked like an absolute unit on stage when he was in those guys. And obviously, he's an absolute unit within Asphyx. But yeah, seeing the music video to that song, I was just like, man, that dude is a freaking monster. And the great, great guitar work for excellent guitar work for Out. Kind of goes a bit doomy at one point before you get into one solo, and then speeds up again, and then you get both of them doing solos, both Patrick's, and then and Van Druen's vocals are just like it's all like on this pitch. It's just like this person is just getting absolutely devoured by ants there, and when you hear that scream, it's like if you saw this image in a music video sort of thing, and you definitely like, man, his vocals. I'm just basically what I'm saying is his vocals are just excellent. They're just so iconic, so unique, and that gets on to Echoes of Death. Really cool right there. Still carrying on from where all the last songs left. Basically carrying on from where Out of the Body left off, and of course that's carrying on from that last track, and it's all just really well crafted, well blended together. All the songs with again some good old thrash style guitars, but when you hear like more the power chord, like more those riffs, it's definitely more in the death metal domain. And then we got Defy Thy Master. Again, still giving that brutality right there. And I've heard a lot of a lot more other Dutch metal bands, and they all bring that level of just brutality right there. Because you got God Dethroned, you got Sinister, Asphyx, Body Farm. They all bring something different to the table, and these guys have definitely brought something to the table with this. Because, like I said, it's just brutal throughout. It's just intense, and it's not giving you much of a rest until the instrumental, which is Proliferous Souls. So a little bit more on the calmer edge because it gets a bit atmospheric there, and you got like cool little like dual guitar solo bit right there, and then kicks back in with the very last song, Reduced to Ashes, and that just perfectly ends this album on a high note. Just they all did an excellent job on this album, and this, man, like I said, I've said this so many times. If you've not listened to this album yet, then give it a good listen. It will be in the description below, so you can have a listen for yourselves. And if you already own this album, either on CD or cassette or vinyl, give it another playthrough. Because it's definitely an album that it's definitely worth just playing over and over and over again. And I'll actually just keep it out here with a bunch of other CDs that I'll be playing once I got a chance to over the weekend. I'll definitely be putting this back on because it is a beast of an album. And like I said, if I don't mention what I said earlier, that in my overall conclusions, it's definitely implied. this is an evil, heavy, monstrous record. It's from all the guitar playing, the bass, and Van Drunen could I mean, rephrase that. Van Drunen, his vocals are, like I said, they're so iconic, very unique, and the guy could play bass like an absolute fucking unit. And I've seen the music video to Out of the Body, and of course, live photos from when he did the last tour in 1990 with these guys, and he could command an all. He had that presence about him, and pretty much just get the audience going, like getting them ready to go, like get a pit going, bang your heads, all that stuff. The man has presence, and Marco, both Patricks just did an excellent job in with their respective instruments as well. So put the bass together, the guitar together, drumming together, Van his vocals, and you got one hell of a fucking dirty album right here. Not like in the sense of like Underground and Crit Room, but it's got that level of dirt to it. It's a nice good production here, but a good nice piece of like filthiness right there as well. And one hell of a excellent album from the late 90s. Of course, this came out the same year as Altars of Madness, Realm of Chaos, and Severed Survival. So it had a lot of competition back then. And of course, Practice What You Preach by Testament. But definitely one of the best from that year. Absolutely love this album. And if you haven't heard it, in the description below, and if you can find a copy, pick it up. Pestilence and Consuming Impvlse. Just excellent Dutch death metal there, just excellent death metal overall. And thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of my Metal Vault. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch these videos. I know I prattle on quite a little bit, and because I have so much going through my head, like thinking about what to say and everything else. And yeah, because there's so much to say about these albums because they're always just this, like I said, they all stand in the test time. This album's nearly 36 years old coming October, yeah, come October, and man, it still holds up now. And fingers crossed, I'll see him soon, as well as current bands that Van is in, primarily Asphyx. And I'll, of course, be talking about them in a future episode. So thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed my content overall or enjoy this series the most, don't forget to like this video, comment down below, share it around, and most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with more My Metal Vault episodes. Of course, I got a collection update uh at some point this week, hopefully, because I'm not going to be going out as much. I know Sunday I'm going to be very busy, and so hopefully before that day I will get that recorded. And of course, some more Jake's Metal Chat interviews will be coming on the way. I have some guests in mind. And that's about it. So once again, thank you very much for tuning in. I've been Jake's Metal Chat. Keep that banner of metal well and truly high. And I will see you all in another episode of my Metal Vault. Do take care of yourselves.